Hi there, Fabian Krause here from the Guyana Revenue Authority. This week, we'll take a brief look at trade agreements ratified by Guyana and how they influence tax administration at the level of customs, excise, and trade operations. With the reopening of schools, you'll be hearing what school supplies do not attract VAT. And later on in the program, a tax specialist will be joining us to answer frequently asked questions. We'll have important messages from the GRA and more. This is where Focus on GRA begins.
School is out and it's time to start buying those school supplies for your children. Here's how GRA can help. Textbooks, coloring books, graph books, dictionaries, pencils, erasers, crayons, lunch kits, scientific calculators, geometry sets, and many more essential school supplies are zero rated for VAT. School uniform garments for shirts, pants, skirts, kimonos, and dresses are also zero rated for VAT. So what are you waiting for? Get to shopping. GRA, your partner in development.
The Guyana Revenue Authority is pleased to introduce to you our optimal revenue management system. You don't have to stand in line, file your tax online. At GRA now it's a fact. You could go online and file your tax. Stay home, don't worry, just relax. Stay safe and file your tax. Save money and time, you don't have to stand in line. Never miss a deadline. At GRA, you can file your tax online. The Optimal Revenue Management System is an improved and user-friendly software that facilitates online services and the management of your tax affairs from your homes or offices. With this powerful and flexible solution, we provide comprehensive and flexible online services, thereby reducing the cost of compliance. Visit the GRA resource page www.gra.gov.gy/optimal to find out more. Sign up and register for an optimal account at eservices.gra.gov.gy. At GRA, you can file your tax online.
Meet Cindy.
Meet Shivani.
Cindy is using the old tax software to assist taxpayers,
While Shivani is using the new Optimal software, where everything is stored electronically and is easily accessible.
Optimal Revenue Management System. Let's get ready for 2021.
Welcome to Focus on GRA, a weekly program of information for taxpayer education. Now, regional and bilateral trade agreements existing between Guyana and other territories are among the main factors governing the way in which duties and taxes apply to imports at the level of customs, excise, and trade operations. We begin with a look at some of these agreements with further explanations by the experts in customs. Guyana is a signatory to approximately 9 trade agreements, one of which is the CARICOM Treaty of Chaguaramas. Ratified in 1973 and revised in the year 2001 to enable the CARICOM Single Market and Economy (CSME), this agreement provides for, among other things, free trade and movement of goods among member states. The aim is to give the region a competitive advantage by mitigating trade barriers and allowing easier imports and exports with no restraints, such as government tariffs, taxes, and prohibitions. Customs Policy Officer Mr. Jason Chung explains further. So, Mr. Chung, when we speak of free trade based on regional and bilateral treaties, how does this concept translate to the imposition of taxes on items entering Guyana from other signatory nations?
Free trade agreements or agreements that the government of Guyana is a party of, in which there is tax exemption generally and ease of trade with various entities or the countries that are outlined.
At the regional level, Guyana is a signatory to the CARICOM Revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, the CARICOM Colombia Agreement, CARICOM Costa Rica Agreement, CARICOM Cuba Agreement, CARICOM Dominican Republic Agreement, the CARICOM Venezuela Agreement, the CARIFORUM EU EPA, and the CARIFORUM UK EPA agreements. At the bilateral level, Guyana and neighboring Brazil share trade relations under the Guyana-Brazil Partial Scope Agreement. In granting preferential treatment to goods traded under these arrangements, Each particular treaty has specific rules of origin, or criteria that determines whether a product was wholly produced in the country or countries that have agreements to preferential treatment. The CARICOM Treaty of Chaguaramas, for example, determines that a good is of community origin once it is wholly produced within the community or has been produced partially from materials imported from outside the community or from materials that cannot be determined. Can you tell us why are rules of origin so necessary in the trade environment?
They are criteria needed to determine the national source of a product. It is basically, in layman's term, knowing that this product comes from a particular area, country, or region. It is very simple at times to differentiate certain types of goods. For example, mangoes or coconuts from Guyana, it can be easily determined that they were from here. However, the rules are created so that there is no mix-up, no dissortation for other items that may be a bit more complex in their creation.
In giving force to the community rules of origin, Guyana's Customs Act Chapter 8201 states that import duty imposed on goods of any sort shall not apply once shown to the satisfaction of the comptroller to have been A. manufactured in or to have been produced of any of the community states, and B. consigned to Guyana from a community state. Based on the provisions in the CARICOM Treaty of Chaguaramas for community goods to benefit from preferential treatment, by that I mean exemptions from government tariffs or prohibitions, any declaration of an import from a member state must include, among other things, a certificate of origin which validates that the item has met the criteria for preferential treatment. The rules regarding community origin in the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas specify that goods accepted as eligible for community tariff treatment must be supported by appropriate documentary evidence or origin and consignment. The evidence of origin shall consist of a certificate given by a governmental authority or authorized body by the exporting member state and notified to the other member state together with a declaration completed by the exporter of the goods. On that account, the certificate of origin must accompany the invoice, bill of lading, customs declaration, original manufacturer's certificate, among other documents required by customs. Deputy Commissioner in Customs, Excise and Trade Operations, Mr. Sean Richmond, recently shared a copy of the certificate of origin during a virtual illustration.
For CARICOM trade, the certificate that you, the broker, may be required to fill, referred to as a certificate of origin, is a joint certificate and invoice. Certificate of origin and invoice declaration. It means that you have to be able to put on the invoice, on the certificate, the invoice number and the invoice date to show that this certificate represents the good referred to on that invoice and that that goods is made in the country that you're talking about. This form is an example of the certificate that you have to use in preparing. Part of it must be signed by the producer of the goods, and this part is for customs to certify. But you would have to put in the item number. You have to follow some rules in preparing this document, putting the invoice number, the accompanying invoice number. And CARICOM on this agreement has a specific invoice form. That form goes along with this certificate. And you have to put in some particular, the country of origin of the goods, the country where it's going to, name and address of the consignee and the transport mechanism and so on, the name of the exporter.
The certificate of origin form can accommodate several descriptions of the shipment, including an indication from the producer that the goods were wholly produced within the community and are therefore eligible for preferential treatment.
When it is certified by the customs authorities in the state, verifying that they have done the relevant checks and that the goods is from that state, this is shipped to accompany your trade documents that you're going to, your C-72 and so on which you're going to make a claim for duty-free treatment.
After receiving the certificate of origin from the last producer of the goods within the community, authorized entities such as customs verifies the accuracy of the evidence provided, and if necessary, may require additional information and even carry out any suitable checks on the item. We use this opportunity to remind you that the government tax relief measures to support individuals and corporations amid the COVID-19 pandemic is extended as per the amended list of COVID-19 prevention, care, and treatment supplies, which remain free of customs duty, VAT, and excise tax where necessary, until December 31, 2021. And for VAT purposes, all the items are zero rated. These are the items: COVID-19 test kits, instruments and apparatuses used in diagnostic tests, protective garments and the like, thermometers, disinfectants or sterilization products, medical consumables, and medicaments. Focus on GRA returns right after this.
Meet Tom.
Meet Harry.
Tom failed to update his banking information with the GRA and now has to go into the agency to receive his refund check.
While Harry is using the new Optimal software and his refund was successfully transferred to his bank account.
Optimal Revenue Management System. Let's get ready for 2021.
As a remigrant, you can import more than one vehicles and pay no import duties, no VAT, and reduce excise tax. However, the total exemption cannot exceed $5 million. If it does, you will have to pay the additional duties and taxes. Did I mention that returning students are also entitled to the same benefit 6 months after settling in the country? For additional information and assistance, contact us 227-6060, extension 1201 to 1204.
Are you into business, going to school, or planning to buy a computer or laptop? Then GRA has you covered. Computer monitors, mouse, keyboards, and many internal components of the central processing unit are zero-rated from VAT. Yes, you heard right. They're tracked, no VAT. But wait, there's more. Computer accessories and printers for personal use, whether multifunctional or not, are also VAT zero-rated. For more information on zero-rated items, contact us. GRA, your partner in development.
Welcome back. You're watching Focus on GRA. As part of efforts to reduce the cost of transportation in the hinterland, all-terrain vehicles, ATVs, intended for mining and forestry, including those used by Tushos, currently benefit from tax waivers. You'll be hearing in this feature from the experts in customs on those tax waivers and the procedure when applying for the concession.
Working in the hinterland and considering buying an ATV? Then we have a little something for you. ATVs for use in hinterland regions will no longer attract import duties. This is due to an amendment to the Customs Act to include Section 50A, which states all-terrain vehicles for use in the hinterland regions shall be exempt from customs duty. Deputy Commissioner of Customs, Mr. Gavin Lowe, gives an explanation of the process through which miners, agricultural and forestry workers must apply for the customs duty exemptions for ATVs.
The categories that would fall under that law would be miners. Now, the miners would have to get a letter from the GGDMA certifying that, they're into mining and they've been complying with the various tax laws and so on. So a letter of support, and then we will grant the exemption. That's the customs duty. Now, it's not only available for miners. You have agriculture sector, forestry sector. They were, could also use ATVs for that purpose. Transportation. Well, the agriculture and the forestry sector, they would have to get a letter from the Ministry of Agriculture informing, that they have a concession, a forestry concession, or, a farm somewhere in the hinterland, and they will also benefit from that. Now, one would also use it as a means of transportation. So, on a case-by-case, the Commissioner General will approve based on a request from the taxpayer.
ATVs 4 years and older are still subjected to excise tax at a rate of $4,200 or 10%, Mr. Lowe explains.
ATVs, first of all, are classified under 8703 in the tariff, which is a similar heading used for motor vehicles under 1000 cc. Now, if it's under 4 years, then the excise tax currently is 0%. So they don't have to apply for that. Now, if the ATV is older than 4 years, then they will have to pay the applicable excise tax, because there's currently no exemption in the Excise Tax Act or regulation to exempt ATVs for mining, for forestry, for any sector. So one would prefer to bring a new ATV, or I should say under 4 years. Under 4 years, defining in the year 2021, be from 2017 to current.
In specific sectors, persons purchasing ATVs also benefit from an exemption from value-added tax. Mr. Lowe provides the details.
In relation to the value-added tax, the recent amendment gives zero-rated VAT on ATVs under, I think, Section 10. Now, that is restricted to sectors: agriculture, forestry, mining, construction, and manufacturing. And I think 2 shows in the interior. So those 6 categories are exempted from any VAT payable on ATVs. And of course, like what we said first, that they would have to get a supporting letter from whichever sector to confirm that they have an operation in that area.
Still on tax waivers, as parents, guardians, and students purchase supplies for schools at the nursery, primary, and secondary levels, the Guyana Revenue Authority uses this opportunity to enlighten the public about school supplies that attract no VAT. The Guyana Revenue Authority uses this opportunity to highlight the list of educational supplies with no value-added tax. Section 17 of the VAT Act, as contained in Schedule 1, provides the zero-rated educational supplies and services. The zero-rated status disallows the business from charging VAT to consumers, but allows them to recover any cost incurred during the period. Therefore, the consumer, as the end user, benefits from a reduction in cost.
Everything that was actually moved to the zero-rated list, you would expect to see a reduction in cost. A lot of times, government go to make these good decisions to help consumers, but the consumers may not necessarily enjoy the benefit if the cost hasn't been reduced. But it should be expected to see reduction in cost.
The zero-rated educational supplies contained in the schedule are as follows: printed books, including children's picture books, children's drawing books, children's story books, coloring books, instructional newspapers and newsletters, textbooks, dictionaries, atlases, music manuscripts, receipt books, religious books, novels, exercise books, notebooks, that is, spiral and composition, graph books, and graph papers, educational charts, alphabetical charts, number charts, maps, and globes, school supplies of student use quality, including file paper, wax and wooden crayons, dividers, and compasses for school use, erasers, white and colored chalk, chalkboard erasers, handheld pencils, sharpeners, simple protractors used by students, scientific calculators only, rulers, pencils, student paint, whether in tubes, jars, bottles, sets, or similar forms and packages, lunch kits, lunch packs, lunch bags, and geometry sets, educational robot kits, and services provided by private educational institutions. The charging of VAT on zero-rated or exempt supplies not only constitutes an offense, but puts undue financial burdens on the consuming public, as recently echoed by Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh.
None of these companies should be charging VAT on any of the items that are zero-rated. It is against the law to do so. The objective of removing the VAT was not to give any business an opportunity to carry up their prices to compensate for the VAT removal. The objective of removing the VAT was to pass on the benefit to consumers.
The list of zero-rated and exempt supplies is on the GRA's website in full detail via the link Zero-Rated and Exempt Supplies List. Let's remind you that in accordance with Section 11 of the VAT Act No. 10 of 2005, a business is required to register for VAT mandatorily or voluntarily. Mandatory if the taxable activity equals or exceeds the threshold of $15 million during or at the end of the year, and voluntary if the taxable turnover is below $15 million. There's more of focus on GRA right after this. When it comes to healthcare, we all want the best. The best hospitals, the best doctors, and the best treatment. But sometimes the best comes at a heavy cost. Well, the good news is you don't have to worry about VAT on medical, dental, hospital, optical, or paramedical services. There's also no VAT on orthopedic appliances like hearing aids or others that are implanted on the body to compensate for a defect or disability. Sounds like good news to help you feel better for the best.
We want the best facilities that this country could ever see, the best infrastructure and public utility, the best education for children in this country, the best health services and public security. But if we want to see such development in every community, then we must be fair and pay we full share of taxes and duty. Want proper bridges and coca, pay your tax. Better roads and safer, pay your tax. Better electric power, pay your tax. Clear potable water, pay your tax. Better schools and teacher, pay your tax. Better nurses and doctor, pay your tax. Better police and soldier, pay your tax. For a better Guyana, pay your tax.
Hi, I am Balwan Prasad, driver for the past 10 years. Over the years that I have been driving, I always make sure that I buckle up, I observe the 5C, and most importantly, make sure that I renew my driver's license at least 3 months before the expiration date.
There's an upcoming due date in the month of September for VAT registrants to submit their VAT returns as required by law. We want to remind you of this due date and also tell you about the online platform that makes it easy for you to submit your returns. The submission of VAT returns to the Guyana Revenue Authority is a monthly obligation that VAT-registered businesses must prioritize. The law requires every VAT registrant to submit a return or declaration to the Commissioner General in a prescribed format. Assistant Commissioner of GRA's VAT Audit and Enforcement, Lavina Walron, explains further.
You have the set-off nature, so you get a chance to set off the VAT you pay against the VAT you charged, right? And the difference in whichever direction, either it's paid to GRA if you end up charging more than you actually pay in that month. The tax period in this case is a month. You pay the difference to GRA in that month.
Section 31 of the VAT Act No. 10 of 2005 specifies the due date as the 15th working day after the end of the period. Period being the month in which the total amount in taxes was collected.
For VAT, day means official working days of the GRA. Weekends don't count, holidays don't count, because it's 15 working days, not just working days, official working days of the GRA.
The due date for the month of September is therefore September 21. This date would account for the 15th working day in the month minus Saturdays and Sundays. Notwithstanding, the GRA advises VAT registrants to submit their returns in the earliest possible time to avoid the last-minute rush or the risk associated with missing the deadline. Most importantly, a return must be submitted whether or not VAT was collected.
Pay attention to your due dates. Make sure your payments are in. Try your best to file returns on time because there are penalties for both payments, there are penalties for late submission of returns.
Section 72 of the Act states that a person who knowingly or recklessly fails to lodge a return as required under Section 31 commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding $15,000. Further, if he or she fails to lodge within the extended time communicated by the Commissioner General in writing, the fine can increase to $2,000 per day. Fortunately, the GRA's Optimal Revenue Management System, launched in February 2021, reduces such risks as it provides a platform for online submissions of returns, which can be done from the comfort of one's home or office. So we've reached that segment in our program where we answer frequently asked questions, and we've invited a tax specialist from the GRA's Tax Advisory Services section. Here's more.
Welcome to our question and answer segment, where we answer the questions you would have asked us during the week. Today, we are looking at budgetary agencies, and we have with us Ms. Janelle Bovel-Drakes, who will be answering our questions. Welcome, Janelle. So, what is a budgetary agency?
For VAT purposes, a budget agency is considered any agency that is listed on the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, Chapter 7302.
Okay, can you give us some examples?
Some examples of budget agencies in Guyana: the Police and the Public and Police Commission Service, Ministry of Finance, GPHC, and the Supreme Court.
And are these budgetary agencies required to pay VAT?
Budget agencies are required to pay VAT on items that are not listed in the zero-rated or exempt supplies. Those can be found in the Schedules 1 and 2 of the VAT Act. These will be taxed at a rate of 14%.
Okay, and will these budget agencies be subject to VAT on importation of goods and services?
It is important to note that the state or an agency of the state will not be subject to VAT on importation of goods and services. Consultancy services, and also if the goods and services are not directly incorporated into a project, and once the said project is funded by grants or loans supplied by the public or international organization.
Okay, so should these state and budget agencies pay VAT to companies awarded contracts by the government to complete projects such as, say, construction of roads and buildings?
Actually, that's a really good question. It is important to note that goods and services which fall under the definition of works and consultancy services supplied locally are taxable at a rate of 14%. When supplied to the state or budget agency, however, when imported, it is zero-rated.
And are companies providing security services to government agencies and budgetary agencies allowed to charge VAT?
This is one of our most recent questions from one of the security services. According to the Schedules 1 and 2 of the VAT Act, security services provided to government agencies are not classified under the zero-rated exempted supplies, and as such will attract VAT at the standard rate of 14%.
Thank you so much, Janelle. That was very informative. If you need any further information about this, feel free to contact the numbers that will be on the screen at the end of our program. Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much to our colleagues in the GRA's Tax Advisory Services section for that segment. We hope that we were able to answer your questions. We've reached the end of Focus on GRA, but before I go, visit our website for more information, gra.gov.gy, and you can also email us, grapublicrelations@gmail.com. Remember the COVID-19 protocol for taxpayers desirous of visiting our offices. Have to present a vaccination card as well as a national ID card before you can gain entry. If you're unvaccinated, you also have to make an appointment and present a negative COVID-19 PCR test. That applies to all of the GRA's office locations. Thank you for watching. Fabian Kraus saying goodbye for now. Take care of yourselves and each other.